Most religions across the globe have one major problem, and that problem is syncretism. Syncretism is the combining or merging of various distinct beliefs or schools of thought. This is a topic that I don't talk about with anyone. I would consider this video to be a YouTube exclusive. However, this video will not be discussing syncretism in the political or cultural sense. It won't even be discussing it in a religious or philosophical sense. None of these things matter to me. What does matter to me is syncretism in the God sense. This video will be on the Syncretic God Problem because nobody talks about it. I left Christianity for several reasons. One of the biggest reasons is syncretism. Syncretism in the God sense is a fusion of gods. Dragon Ball Z does a good job explaining syncretism in the God sense. Imagine Goku and Vegeta are gods. They both have their own characteristics and personalities. But when they put on the Potara earrings, then they can fuse together. This fusion creates a new god that is more powerful and has the qualities of both Goku and Vegeta. This includes their personalities. This is syncretism in action. Most pagan gods that are still around in 2026 have gone through syncretization. Some gods have gone through this once, and others have gone through it a couple of times. Though the number of times a pagan god goes through syncretization tends to be rather low. Obviously, there are exceptions to this rule. We can take Odin, for example. What we know about Odin is that he was originally a god of magic and inspiration. At some point in the past, he was syncretized with Tyr. This is how he became a god of war. He was not originally a god of war that ruled over Valhalla. He could have been syncretized more than once, but I don't know if we will ever know the truth. So, for the purposes of this video, I am going to argue that Odin has had one major syncretization event that we know about. We just don't know when Odin took over Tyr's role. Now we will talk about Jesus. Jesus is also a syncretized god. I cannot think of a god that is more syncretized than Jesus. He is syncretized with most of the Canaanite pantheon and likely the Egyptian pantheon. One could also argue that Jesus is syncretized with many Zoroastrian figures as well. But we will leave this issue aside. What matters for the purpose of this video is that Jesus was syncretized with dozens of other gods, and this is how he became so powerful. Syncretization keeps the gods alive. If a god doesn't go through syncretization, then we likely won't know anything about that god. Obviously, there will always be exceptions to this rule. I understand that syncretization is natural and necessary, but I can't help but notice that there is an elephant in the room, and this elephant has annoyed me over the years. There is always this thought in the back of my head questioning whether it is possible for a syncretized god to be real. I am like 75% sure that a syncretized god would not be real. The original version of the god could have been real. The original Odin could have been based off a real historical figure. The original Jesus could have been based off a real historical figure, but not the syncretized versions. I highly doubt that any syncretized god is real, but most people, including myself, venerate or worship a syncretized god. Most religious people think their syncretized god is real. This is perfectly fine. People can think whatever they want to think, but I personally struggle with thinking that syncretized gods are real despite venerating a few of them. I view gods differently than most people, and I will be making a separate video on this topic. I just wanted to make a video on the Syncretic God Problem because nobody ever talks about this issue, and it's a huge religious issue that everybody brushes under the rug. Can a god that has been merged with multiple gods ever be real? This is just something to think about. I would also like to add that ChatGPT says that a syncretized god can be real. However, I am not entirely convinced that syncretized gods can be real. This is a topic that I have been struggling with for years, and I don't think it gets enough attention. Thanks for listening. Have a fantastic day or night.